Part 108. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1075. The air wavered, oscillated. Wow! An extremely strong cold air surged out of Garen's body, actually freezing and breaking the ice covering his feet. The cold air was pure white, without any impurities. It simply covered it, moving crazily along the floor engraved with mysterious patterns and covering all the soul seeds in the hall. Everything withers. Garen opened his hands. The terrifying white cold air spread rapidly towards the surroundings, and everything began to completely stop wherever it went, being frozen into pure white ice. Layers of wave-like ice crystals piled up layer upon layer at Garen's feet, quickly spreading towards the entire hall. The hall is decaying, the original ice layer is breaking and being infected, rapidly changing from the original ice blue to pure white. That is a higher level of pure ice crystals. What kind of cold is this? Illusory shadows, tall or short, appear above each soul seed. These shadows are male and female. Each one carries a powerful chill of extreme fear. If an ordinary person comes, just one look at it, they may lose their soul. All were completely frozen to death. They are the ancestors of various generations of the Chixyu sect who have died in battle or died in the past countless years. They all have one thing in common, that is, they have practiced Chixyu Kung Fu to a very high level. This is the ancestor of all generations. Garen was shocked, and the violent cold air suddenly trembled and stopped temporarily. The white cold air and the blue-white cold air in the hall froze each other into two ice and snow worlds. The souls of Garen and dozens of ancestors seemed to be in two different spaces. I never thought that in future generations there would be disciples who could cultivate such pure final cold energy. A female ancestor said in a low and solemn voice. How many years? How many years have we waited? I can't remember clearly, 100 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years. Maybe even longer. But haven't we waited after all? Among the dozens of figures, a black shadow with the most terrifying cold air quietly emerged. When our souls were about to dry up, fate sent us such a pure body of ice. Garen's eyes narrowed and he stared at the figure slightly. The figure was completely black, with only a pair of eyes glowing with ice blue fluorescence. He couldn't see his face or anything else. The original ancestor. An unprecedented body of ice. So pure, the figure admired. Such a cold air has surpassed the level of Chixyu Gong, a tall and thin patriarch whispered. Everyone, haven't you made a decision yet? The first ancestor shouted in a low voice. The hall fell silent. After a long time, a handsome male patriarch finally smiled and spoke. I was forced to wait forever because I couldn't see hope, but when I really saw the opportunity, I started worrying about gains and losses. Yes, isn't this what we have been waiting for? When it comes to the end, we shrink back. The other person also laughed. Grandmasters, Garen opened his mouth to speak. We are not the ancestors, we are just the belief formed by the last bit of their will. The black shadow in the center replied lightly. If your pure cold energy hadn't reactivated us, maybe in a few hundred years, we would have completely disappeared into history, and no one would have discovered that we ever existed. Garen took a deep breath and left his will in the soul seed to survive for thousands of years. This result is acceptable. This is the magic of Guyinduo. Their research on souls has reached the pinnacle. In this world, because I did not reach the so-called Panzi realm, I was not able to enter the eternal mover until my death, but I am not willing to give in. The original ancestor's voice was low and full of unwillingness. As the strongest genius in the history of the Scarlet Snow sect, I traveled across the world and followed the Mother River to come here, but I can't even break through to a level of eternal motioner. Even if you don't understand Pan, so what? I am at the Secret Martial Legion level and the Demon King level is no lower than the Eternal Mover, the first ancestor said in a low voice, so, I am not willing to give in. Even if I die in the final battle, I will still use all my energy. The energy and spirit are condensed into soul seeds, waiting for another opportunity. At this time, Garen had already heard the origin of the other party. He was indeed the original ancestor, the secret martial arts master who founded the Red Snow section. Moreover, the other party was surprisingly similar to him. They both drifted into this world along the Mother River, but after all, he was a bit unlucky. Without Garlean's powerful talent, he couldn't see the general trend and travel through several worlds in a row. It can only drift passively. Now, I finally see hope. The ancestor looked at Garen with a hopeful look. Tell me, is the Legion level really weaker than the Eternal Mover? There was a moment of silence in the hall, and the eyes of all souls fell on Garen. Garen looked around and saw eyes full of anxiety, fatigue, and hope. They had been waiting for this answer for too long. That is a kind of supreme belief in my will, a pious and firm belief. As a secret warrior, Garen also has such a firm will and belief. He once wavered, but when he achieved the 8th level of the Cold Region Peacock Kung Fu, such wavering was completely eliminated. But these people are different, these ancestors are different from him. Their conditions are far inferior to his, but they can still persist for so many years. Regardless of position or personality, just for this trace of persistence for thousands of years, this kind of will is enough to give me the highest respect. To be honest, I don't know which side is stronger, my will or Mecha, he said slowly. Looking at the increasingly gloomy eyes around him, he suddenly changed his words. But I will try it myself. Maybe I can see things that you can't see clearly. There was tranquility in the hall, and the originally disappointed eyes were once again filled with new hope. I will become the strongest secret warrior in history, no one in this world. Garen stretched out his hand, and the extremely dead cold air kept hovering in his palm, and traces of the pure chill of the cold peacock skill gathered crazily. A little crystal white ice crystal formed in his palm. If it were you, maybe it's really possible, the first ancestor whispered. The cold wind kept whistling and swirling in the hall, and everyone fell into silence for a while. Maybe half an hour, maybe an hour, maybe more. Finally, the original ancestor spoke again. You came here to experience our state of pure coldness. He looked around. Aren't you still unable to let go? Can't let go? How is it possible? A tall female ancestor laughed. Isn't this what I have always wanted? Let us help him. She suddenly turned around and turned into a dark blue cold air thread, rushing directly towards Garen and quickly spinning around him. Even Anne is willing to give up. How can we fall behind? The second ancestor suddenly collapsed and turned into a blue thread and rushed towards Garen. Take everything we have, go, and perfect Chixyukung to the highest level ever. The third patriarch turned into silk thread. Take our will and our beliefs, take them all. Nothing in the world can escape the will of withering. You will become the strongest. Freeze everything. Silk threads gathered together crazily and spun around Galen at high speed. The strong black figure standing in the center stretched out his hand, and Yao Yao and Garen faced each other with their palms. Inherit the will of all of us and freeze everything that blocks you. Unfortunately, I can't see it anymore. Peng. With a soft sound, he completely turned into a blue line and merged into the large torrent of cold air, spinning rapidly around Galleon. Go. Go and become the strongest man of this era. Bring our will. The last voice of the first ancestor slowly echoed in the hall. A large number of blue silk threads rotate rapidly around Galen, like strips of delicate tulle, and more like an invisible blue cloud. A large amount of pure cold energy rushed towards Galen crazily, and at the same time, there was also a large amount of practice and memory experience of the ancestors of the past generations who used the practice of Chixyugong. Garen understood that the soul seed wills left here were originally left to wait for this moment. He did not expect that just entering here for the first time would lead to such an unexpected and huge inheritance. The essence of the Chixyugong of all the ancestors of the Chixyu sect in the history was integrated into his body at a high speed. Various types of coldness with different attributes are constantly merged into the withered and dead peacock chill. With the highest belief in the secret martial arts, all the chills are unconditionally willing to surrender to the deathly silence and merge into it. A layer of exquisite armor as white as jade slowly covered the surface of Garen's body, including his head, chest, arms, lower body, and legs. The exquisite and delicate ice armor arched two horns forward from the waist, like a belt. Wrap the galleons around the waist. Buzz. A circle of white halo appeared behind Garen's head. It was the condensed product of the spiritual power of all the ancestor souls, and represented the strongest power of this armor. The chill of death is getting stronger and stronger, and the level of Chixyugong has begun to increase again with the increase of this armor. The 15th floor was slowly broken through. The 16th floor, the 17th floor, the 18th floor. The last 3 layers were completely broken through in this short period of time. The last 3 layers were mainly used to improve the quality of the cold air. Garen's own cold quality was very high, coupled with the soul seed experience infused into the armor of the ancestors, he was directly affected by it. Chill's understanding has been raised to an extreme. Such a breakthrough is not surprising. The 18th level represents the ultimate level of Chixyugong. The entire Chixyugong only has 18 levels, which corresponds to the 9th level energy master. I didn't expect there to be such martyrs in this world. Garen quietly looked at everything that was completely shattered in front of him, lowered his head slightly, and performed the etiquette of a secret warrior with great solemnity. I will carry out your wishes. The armor on his body suddenly turned into white light, disappeared between his eyebrows, and condensed into a V-shaped white pattern. The aura on his body also returned to normal, and then he turned around and left slowly. The ice hell will completely disappear starting from today. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1076. The weather on the red snow star began to warm up rapidly, and the areas originally covered with heavy snow gradually began to warm up. The ice and snow melted, turning into snow water and flowing down the sides of the mountains, forming new rivers that meandered to the surrounding cities. Many people from Chixyu sect were paying attention and alert, and went out to investigate. The big executives who really control the daily affairs of the genre have also noticed that they are separated from the external managers on the facade of the genre on weekdays. The headquarters area is the residence of elders and reclusive masters. They are an independent management department. They generally do not enter the internal sect except for special needs where they will apply for assistance from the internal sect. But now the snow peaks are melting, causing the rivers to converge and form. Such anomalies have also aroused the vigilance of their external managers. Garen came out of the ice hell. The guards stationed at the door were still observing the abnormalities outside, but they didn't notice him coming out immediately. Senior brother Jia Long, are you out? When they walked outside the cave entrance, one of the guards realized what was going on. Well, what happened outside? Garen asked doubtfully. I don't know, it seems that the snow on the snow peak has melted, a guard replied in a low voice. Snow peaks melting, Garen suddenly thought of the disappearance of all soul seeds in the ice hell. It is very likely that he caused this change, because the source of the real cold air in Swifeng is basically all the dense seeds in the ice hell. These dense seeds all merge to form an extremely powerful and terrifying ice armor, which is the condensed inheritance of all ancestors. It is the condensation of countless essences of the Chixyu sect over the years. Garen knew that taking away this armor meant that he had inherited the will and wishes of all the ancestors of the Chixyu sect for thousands of years. Want to watch the ceremony? He remembered what Carthage said before leaving. This time the ceremony was the so-called early competition, gathering all the elites, but in the end the pilots were killed in one fell swoop. They suffered heavy casualties and were unable to recover. It's just that the competition will last for many years and will not be completed in a short time. His thoughts returned to the present, and Garen began to think about how he should give an explanation to the elders regarding the disappearance of the ice hell. He left the entrance to the ice hell and flew directly towards the main peak tribunal, where Rene was once judged. The entire Chixu sect has become more and more deserted. Maybe it was already deserted, but Garen realized now that he didn't see many people even after flying for a long time. As the Chixu headquarters, there are very few people here. The extreme cold makes it difficult for people with average physique to enter. Only those who practice Chixugong can live here for a long time. Moreover, most people stay at home and do not go out on weekdays. Those who dare to go out often are people with profound skills. However, people with profound skills are likely to spend years and months in retreat at a time, and it is difficult to meet a single person. In the deserted sky, Garen looked down, and could only occasionally see a few sporadic figures passing quickly across the ground. The flickering beams of teleportation kept lighting up everywhere. It was obvious that many people were moving through the teleportation array. The tribunal arrived quickly, but in the distance, Garen heard a subtle roar, as if something heavy was colliding. As the trial court got closer and closer, two white figures were colliding hard again and again in the middle of the huge ice sculpture. A huge image of an ice fox was entrenched, constantly knocking away a small white dot on the other side. This won't work, the power is too light. Speed. It's slow. Hurry up. Hurry up, among the ice foxes, a gray-haired old man kept shouting loudly. Ah, the white boy on the other side suddenly made a white palm print. The palm print became larger and larger, and rushed towards the ice fox filled with biting cold. Too weak. A low growl came from within the ice fox. With one tail, the white palm prints were shattered. You turned the good blizzard palm into a slow and powerless ordinary palm, the old man scolded sternly in a hoarse voice. Two young and beautiful girls stood by and watched the battle quietly. They turned out to be Xiao Xiao. These two guards were given to Garen by the eldest princess. Judging from the worried looks they looked at the young man in the field, they were obviously very familiar with them. Two people. Since the two-headed wolf clan occupied the area around Garen, they no longer receive orders from Garen. Instead, they live freely in the Red Snow sect headquarters, leisurely and boring, and they don't know how they got to know the people present. Garen recognized the identities of the two people fighting in the field at a glance. That blonde boy is the grandson of senior sister Renee, a direct bloodline, Hongguo. A person who inherited a secret seed of ice. When he and his companions broke into the Chixu headquarters, it was said that he was imprisoned, but now he didn't expect to be safe and sound. The person he was fighting against was a big manager within the sect, with inheritance-level strength, Ice Fox Nash Adder, and one of the big managers in charge of external affairs. Red Fruit, Garen was suspended high in the air, not letting the people below notice him, but quietly watching the Ice Fox point out how to exert the power of Red Fruit and use the power of the Ice-dense seed. He also noticed that the mysterious young man ranked at the bottom of the three hearts was actually hiding not far away to observe the battle. He thought no one had noticed him, but at this time his face showed a deep greed, but his eyes were fixed on him. Looking at the red fruits in the field, I don't know what I am thinking. Galen recalled the red fruit's deeds in history. According to the original trajectory, this guy should be the last survivor leader of the energy weapon masters. After the Battle of Ice Valley more than 100 years later, all the high-end energy weapon masters were completely dead. He took the remaining young energy weapon masters with him. Go to a foreign country and start over to build a new place of hope. Since Xiao Xiao is so attached to him, let them protect him. Garen did not go down, but moved his lips slightly, quietly transmitting messages to the little ones below. The two girls below suddenly showed a look of surprise on their faces. They looked around for Galen's figure, but found nothing. As for the shock that Garen had originally worried about the senior managers and elders about the disappearance of the ice hell, there was actually no trace of it. The courtroom was deserted. The elders are not here, and the chief managers all seem to be busy with their own affairs. As for the Three Hearts disciples, the entire Chixyu sect, some of the Three Hearts disciples have gone out, and some have not entered the ice hell for the time being, and nothing has been discovered. Without the elders, the current Scarlet Snow sect is dominated by Garen, the most powerful person. Quietly watching the fight and instructions below, Garen levitated for a while, and then left silently. With the reorganization of Carthage, the top masters of the entire Chixyu sect lived in seclusion in the headquarters, which gradually became exhausted, dead, and unusually deserted. As soon as he returned to his residence, Garen saw several high-level managers waiting outside the mansion of his Black Wolf territory. "Senior Brother Galen, there is an urgent matter that needs to be decided." "Urgent matter?" "It is a very important matter, and we dare not make the decision without authorization." A senior manager had an extremely keen sense. He immediately raised his head and saw the flying Garen and shouted loudly, "Aren't there senior sisters and the others? Where are Alice, senior sister Eva, and Jingmao?" Garen frowned. Urgent information about external affairs actually came to him for help. The other people ranked in front of him were all dead. "Senior Brother Carthage has readjusted the rankings before leaving. You are now second, rank second," the chief executive quickly explained. "All major decisions within the school are made by you." Garen suddenly understood the true meaning of what Carthage said before leaving. He landed on the ground, and before he could stand still, several senior managers rushed over and shouted urgently, "Senior Brother Garen, the situation is urgent. The medicine of creation family has finally produced the fifth secret medicine. Are we going to take the secret medicine of creation this time or not? There is also a war situation and military situation. Our Chixyu Merchant Alliance was attacked by pirates in the Third Channel and is in urgent need of experts to deal with it." Another person followed closely and shouted, "My urgent report here is from Sky City. Nebula and Black Knife are at war. 13 cities have been destroyed. Now the war is about to reach our Naga planet." The three messages came one after another, which caught Garen off guard. "Is there a war? Nebula and Black Knife." Nebula and Black Knife Magnetic Field are the three most powerful organizations of weapon masters. Now there is a war between the two? This gave Garen a bad association. "In the capital of Blue Sky?" he asked in a low voice. "Yes. 13 major cities in the Blue Sky City have been destroyed by the aftermath of the battle, with tens of millions of casualties." "Where are the other three-hearted highnesses?" Garen asked quickly. "Since he is in charge now, there is no need to talk about other nonsense. I'm in seclusion, I'm taking a break, I'm taking a vacation, I don't know the news." Immediately announce the third piece of news. Notify the personnel stationed on Naga Star. Try to bring your family and relatives back from far away and stick to them. No one will be allowed to travel far away, Galen quickly ordered. No one knows the future better than him. Trend. I just didn't expect the situation to break out so quickly. In addition, I would like to inform everyone, including His Highness Sangzan, that I will convene a meeting of the tribunal. The elders are not here, and the senior brother is not here. I am the person in charge of the Chixyu sect, and my authority must be determined immediately." "Yes." The three senior managers responded solemnly, evacuated one after another, and quickly began to deliver the news. Watching the three people leave, Garen's heart felt peaceful. It was a life-or-death moment, and there must be no hesitation or delay at this time. He jumped up and ordered the two-headed wolf Turing and others to shrink their resources, while he flew directly towards the main peak of the second elder. The white cold tower stands on the top of the mountain, still surrounded by a white halo. There were no guards around to keep vigil, which was completely different from when Garen came before. There are only a few autonomous robots patrolling the area. Garen came to visit the teacher. Garen flew down in front of the tower and shouted loudly. There was no response, and there was silence in the tower. It was as if there was no one at all. Garen pays his respects to the teacher. Please open the defensive barrier. Garen repeated the call. Perhaps the sound was too loud and concussive, but there was a faint figure running out from inside. The elder said he didn't see anyone and was in retreat. Don't see anyone. Garen's eyes were slightly cold, and he strode towards the tower. The terrifying cold air burst out from his body, turning into a circle of white air waves and spreading in all directions. Stop! How dare you break into the tower, the man shouted fiercely. The top of the tower suddenly lit up with pure white fluorescence. A transparent barrier suddenly appeared in front of Garen, blocking the way. Tear! The barrier was directly torn apart by Garen's hands, creating a huge gap. Garen strode in, appeared in front of the man like lightning, grabbed his head, and directly froze and imprisoned his entire lower body, leaving only one head still able to move. Spare your life! Spare your life! I'm just an errand boy. It's none of my business. The man reacted very quickly, but he turned out to be just a piece of trash at the third or fourth level of Chixyagong. Leaving this man aside, Garen strode into the tower. None of the original staff and daily maintenance personnel were missing. Garen walked directly upstairs without saying a word. As soon as they reached the second floor, they saw the second elder walking out slowly and met head-on in the corridor. Garen, are you going to rebel? You are tearing apart the protective barrier of the tower wantonly. Do you want to destroy my foundation? The second elder spoke harshly and stared coldly at Garen with his hands behind his back. Garen stared at the second elder carefully for a while and found nothing wrong, then slowly lowered his head. Disciples don't dare. Don't you dare? Kill your senior brother, kill your senior sister, disrespect your teacher, act wantonly. What else don't you dare to do? The second elder shouted coldly. Since the teacher is fine, I'll take my leave first. Garen looked calm and was about to turn around and leave. Suddenly, his eyes moved slightly and fell on the second elder's empty hands. Teacher, why didn't I see your pipe? That is your favorite pipe of all time. Garen narrowed his eyes softly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1077. Pipe. A strange look flashed deep in the second elder's eyes. I've been feeling unwell in my lungs recently and I don't want to smoke, so I put it away. Why do you have any objections? You want to control whether I smoke or not. Of course this is not what my disciple meant. Garen's narrowed eyes became sharper. If you don't mean that, get out of here. The second elder suddenly became angry. Pulmonary discomfort. Jia Long smiled coldly. Recently, my disciple's skill has greatly improved. Why don't you ask me to help you check your lungs to see if there is any discomfort in your lungs? Before he finished speaking, Garen grabbed the second elder with one hand and clawed it straight. With a tearing sound, a void vacuum was directly drawn out of the air. It was a terrifying air channel caused by the excessive speed, and the surrounding air had not had time to fill it. Garen's claws had already reached the second elder's chest. The dazzling white light covered Garen's palm, dyeing the entire claw into a white jade color, which looked vaguely like a human hand from a distance. Seeing that his claws were about to grab the second elder's chest. Bold! A layer of black halo suddenly exploded on the side of Garen, turning into a black whirlpool, from which several fist-sized black insects flew out and bit into Garen's head. The second elder himself also looked horrified, and a halo of immortality erupted fiercely all over his body, but it only slowed down Garen's arm extension speed. Twice the punch pressure. Garen's right hand suddenly doubled in strength and fell towards the second elder's chest with even more intense pressure. The fierce peripheral punch pressure instantly caused the black insects that rushed towards him to burst into the air and turned into several balls of fishy slurry. An unstoppable terrifying pressure suppressed the second elder. At this time, he was unable to resist at all. He could only open his eyes and stare at the palm that was getting closer and closer. "You dare to kill your master!" he yelled wildly. Coax. Garen's palm disappeared. The terrifying characteristics of Wan Zhengong allowed him to transfer the hand of terrifying power to another place in an instant, to the chest of a man in black robe who had just appeared. The head of the man in black robe spurted out thick plasma under the hood, and with a howl, he flew upside down and hit the wall. Countless cracks spread loudly, and the layers of light on his body were like an onion being peeled off, layer by layer. All nature is extinguished and broken. "I'm not willing to give in." His figure suddenly turned into a black light and shot out. "You sneaky thing, how dare you escape?" Garen snorted coldly and took a step forward. Twice the punch pressure. Coax. The terrifying pressure crazily suppressed the black light, and the entire black light fell to the ground like a lump of lead, sputtering out large black fragments. The air condensed slightly, like a viscous liquid that even the wind could not flow. Black light fell to the ground. The expression on the second elder's face and the fragments of the wall all moved extremely slowly, as if in slow motion. Every action costs them a huge amount of energy. This is the terrifying power of Garen's destructive impact fist. The punch pressure is 88 times, and the increase depends entirely on the physical strength of the user. As long as the user's physique can support it, it can continue to increase. Garen's strength at this time was 40 points. The destructive impact punch doubled, reaching 80 points of strength. Even masters at the same level who were not at the top of the level were unable to resist such a terrifying level of pressure. Suppressed like a baby. Their eternal light is no different from eggshells under Galen's fist. What is the concept of 80 points of strength? Back then, Garen was invincible in the totem world with less than 20 points of strength. No matter what kind of behemoth, terrifying monsters dozens of meters tall were unable to resist under his fists. And a giant beast that is tens of meters tall is enough to destroy several high-rise buildings with one blow. But now the power of 80 points is more than 4 times that of the original. If the power is spread out, one blow is enough to destroy more than 10 high-rise buildings, and some smaller cities can be destroyed instantly. And this is just the terrifying power of twice Garen's punch pressure. All this power is concentrated in the space of less than 100 square meters. Halo. The black light on the ground suddenly struggled for the last time, erupting into terrifying golden light and heat. Obviously this is his original secret skill. 3 times Garen took a step forward, and the terrifying power pressure became more intense. Under the tyrannical power of 120 points of power, the black light that just burst out was like a light going out, and was instantly extinguished. With a crash, the black light shattered and dissipated, and everything became calm again. At this point, the unknown master who had not been demoted died in the tower without any resistance. The only trace left was the large cracks left by the high-strength alloy on the wall. This was because Garen controlled the power. Not much of an overflow wasted effect. You, the second elder's eyes widened, and he looked at Garen, who was gradually walking towards him, with cold sweat on his forehead and body. His teeth couldn't help but chatter, but he couldn't control his instinct at all. "Teacher, do you have any opinions on my handling of this suspicious person?" Garen asked calmly. The second elder's lips were trembling, and his face was pale with fear. But he is trying hard to maintain his image. "No problem, you did a good job." "Well done," he nodded repeatedly. At this time, there was no trace of the majesty of the teacher at all. With the increase in strength, the Legion level Garen now has an invisible and attractive temperament, and the peacock skill in the cold region that has reached great success is quickly showing its ultimate power. Garen could see that his physical fitness had reached the upper limit of his soul, but some of his body's qualities were still being greatly strengthened, the most critical of which was resilience. The most remarkable feature of the cold peacock is its immortality and its immortality-like resilience. Garen has felt it. When he used 3 times of punching pressure, his body would be unable to bear it and suffer internal lacerations. But now, it's easy. Only a few days have passed, and the speed of this repair power is still increasing rapidly. Even he himself didn't know to what extent the cold peacock's resilience could reach. In the final analysis, he himself did not know how powerful the Legion level, the highest level of the secret martial arts of life, was, and Garen also did not know what heights it could reach when combined with the consciousness training of this world. The only thing he knows is that he is getting stronger and stronger. Looking at the second elder who was cowering in front of him, Garen was already sure that this person was indeed the second elder of the Chixyu sect, but his body was the same, his strength was, but his essence was no longer the same. Perhaps just like the method Carthage used against him, the person in front of him was just a body snatcher he found from other places. Recalling the second elder's personality, how could he be so frightened by such a trivial matter? A trace of sadness flashed in Garen's heart, but more importantly, there was a trace of murderous intention towards Carthage. The second elder, Rene, was a favored person to him, but now they were all being treated like this, and there was nothing he could do. The impact punch of destruction has reached 5 times. This is also the limit that my current physical fitness can bear. If I go up, I must speed up. When the competition starts, there may be no time left for me to improve myself so leisurely. Garen understood in his heart. He took one last look at the second elder, closed his eyes, turned around and left slowly. It's time to focus on improving the 9th level body tempering technique. 9 different kinds of precious mineral essences are needed to temper oneself. The cost is huge, so it is best to use the power of the Red Snow sect to centralize the supply. Facing Carthage, the stronger the strength, the better. Okay, Garen had a plan in mind. Teacher, I am going to hold a meeting of the tribunal. Please move to the tribunal and don't be late, he said calmly without looking back. No, no, no. At this time, the second elder was frightened and could only respond. Without any accident, the second elder has been taken away. Garen didn't have to go see the first elder and the third elder, so it must be the same situation. The entire Chixyu sect may have completely changed hands. Carthage's purpose had been achieved. If it hadn't been for his accident, this school of energy weapon masters might have existed in name only and become a base for plotting against other energy weapon masters. Garen didn't have the slightest worry about killing the hidden man in black robes. This was originally his G-Liacy character, bloodthirsty, evil, and his biggest hobby was destruction. Even if Carthage knew about it, he wouldn't have any objections if he didn't fall down. Jlusi is theoretically on the same level as him, so naturally he will no longer be commanded and controlled by him. Leaving the tower of the second elder, Garen went to the location of the first elder and the third elder, and broke in forcefully. There was no accident. It was empty, leaving only a few blood stains. Maybe he was killed, or maybe Carthage. I hate that they can't even meet the minimum qualifications to seize the body, so maybe they can just solve it. As for the Guardians, at this point, if the Chixyu Guardians don't come out, it's obviously a disaster. Carthage. Garen was suspended in the sky, and he could feel the anger and roar of the last vestiges of will of dozens of ancestors in the armor between his eyebrows. That was the anger and hatred generated by the imminent destruction of the Chixyu sect. Some of them have lived in the Chixyu sect for too long, some have been trained and cared for by Chixyu and regard this place as their home, and some have invested too much of themselves in the Chixyu section effort. Don't worry, I will repay this love to Carthage properly, Garen murmured softly. He could feel that he was getting stronger crazily every moment, and once the Legion-level Cold Peacock skill broke out at Dachan, the surge it brought had not completely disappeared. The Zion Kane branches from the Remora Merchant Alliance have almost arrived, and there is a new source of potential points. Next, if he wants to rush into the next level of Chixyugong, it will not be a problem to reach the 16th level, 8th level, or even enter the 9th level, because the Ancestor's Ice Armor gives him a complete improvement experience. Until Chixyu, the top level of Gong is not a problem. All it takes is time. But after the 9th level, he will once again fall into the dilemma faced by his ancestors, unable to break through to the 10th Eternal Mover. This is a curse that no one in the entire Chixyu sect can escape. If you can't break through the 10th level, you won't be able to fight against the Eternal Movers, let alone the strong one among the Eternal Movers, Shinandi. Perhaps the ultimate root cause still lies in my womb. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1078. Maybe it's time to go back. Garen recalled everything that happened after arriving in this world. The most profound thing was still the time in the Black Disk territory. The Chixyu sect now exists in name only, the elders have disappeared, the guardians have disappeared, and the only people supporting the sect are the chief executive and the Sangzan disciples. But the strength of such a school has not decreased much, because of Carthage and because of itself. As long as Carthage has not completely revealed his identity, he will still be a member of the Chixyu sect, and on the surface, he only has the strength to not fall down to the 15th level, but in fact he has ice armor and can be promoted to the 9th level. It's just that the fighting style of the 9th level is still completely unclear. He has the power of the 9th level, but there is no way to understand the corresponding knowledge of the 9th level. Garen flew straight towards the tribunal. Dang dang dang. A heavy bell rang at the top of the mountain, spreading throughout the entire Red Snow sect headquarters, and streams of light quickly shot towards the main hall at the top of the tribunal. These streams of light may be powerful or obscure. As soon as they enter the trial court, they instantly turn into a figure of different heights and quietly fall into their own position. When Garen flew to the main hall, most of the people had already arrived, and only a few people did not come because they were out for retreat. Several people in Sangzan looked impatient, obviously interrupted by this call. Most of the top managers were deep in thought, without any expression or emotion. Then there was the general person in charge of the headquarters, a fat middle-aged man, who glanced at the whole place as soon as he came down. The elder is not here, the senior brother is not here, who has the right to ring the emergency call bell, he asked in a deep voice. Isn't it the elder who knocked? The first supervisor became confused. There were several people around him who looked the same as him. Even Sangzan frowned a little. If it wasn't the elder who knocked, then who? It's impossible for a guardian. The guardian never gives orders directly beyond the elders. Maybe Big Brother? Eva stood in the third position, pursed her lips, and looked cold. She was not interested in who rang the summons bell. Since it was an emergency summons bell, it must be a very serious matter. Alice, who ranked second, was still hidden under her white robe, her face and expression could not be seen clearly, and she also felt unusually calm. The cat in the fourth scene below is playing with his white kitten and seems not to care about the contents of the summons clock. The fifth position was vacant, which was originally Renee's position. The sixth Angola was dressed in a bloody robe, his face was expressionless, and he didn't know what he was thinking. The seventh is Mendy, a lonely guy. Most of the energy weapon marks of the sect come from him and his disciples. He is the master of the energy weapon marks of the section, although this old man with a beard looks like inconspicuous, but no one will underestimate him. The eighth is Miss, who was carelessly knocked unconscious by Honguo and others last time. At this moment, she is staring down at Honguo and the others who are standing behind the chief manager with a sinister look on their faces. Obviously he is still holding a grudge against the last time. Ranked 9th and 10th are Solomon Demon Bell and Aloran. The two of them were talking quietly, and Alolan's face didn't look very good. Finally, there is 11's ballfish tribe. This huge, round creature is basically a ballfish, floating in the position of 11. Everyone has forgotten his name, and everyone calls him 11 anyway. There are two short shark fins on the surface of the black body, which are fanned back and forth from time to time. They look in sharp contrast to the round body. On the contrary, it's a little cute. 12 is empty. This is the original position of Galleon. 13 is Lung Guang, a newcomer who has been promoted together with Galleon. This guy was lucky enough to survive from the void battlefield. At this moment, he saw Galleon slowly falling from the sky. He immediately starts sending messages over to ask about the situation. Garen chatted with him wordlessly until everyone arrived. But his eyes passed over all the three hearts and the chief supervisor. The last 14 is Bayet. This guy came back not long ago with injuries all over his body and his arms are still bandaged. Obviously, his journey back to dig for the family treasure was not going well, and at the same time, he had no clues about his younger brother. At this time, his face was gloomy and he looked like he was in a bad mood. The 15th is the mysterious young man. After this guy entered Sangzhen, he changed his name and called himself Ling Guang. At this time, he was dressed in white and looked ordinary, completely concealed by the handsome and cold Baye beside him, making him inconspicuous. Galen turned his eyes and looked at the chief executive. There are not many high-level managers who are qualified to participate in the tribunal, only 5 of them. The middle-aged Binghu who taught Hongguo was also standing among them. The other 4 were 2 men and 2 women, with different postures. They looked like ordinary teachers and professors, or other scholars. If it weren't for the looming inheritance level fluctuations that flickered from time to time, resisting the cold air of the tribunal, no one would have thought that these ordinary-looking scholars could actually be inheritance masters. 3 of them were the senior managers who came to report to Garen. At this time, their eyes slightly paid tribute to Garen's inspection. The positions of the 3 highest elders are empty. Aha! A burst of white light distorted, and the second elder instantly appeared in the second elder's position. As soon as he appeared, he unconsciously looked at Garen who was standing at the Sangzhen position. The position of the 3 hearts does not mean the ranking now, because the ranking of the 3 hearts has been in turmoil during this period, and there has not been time to adjust the position. Renee dies, her position becomes vacant, and the others will naturally move forward 1 space. So Galleon in his position is not just ranked 12th. The other 2 elders can't come. The second elder calmed down. Here, I have some very sad news to tell you. After the second elder spoke, the hall quickly fell silent, and everyone's eyes were focused on the elder's position. The first elder and the third elder died in the line of duty due to an accident, the second elder stated in a low and sad tone. The sound echoed in the hall. Everyone who heard the news wondered if they had heard it wrong. Some people blinked and couldn't help but turned around and asked the people around them if they were hallucinating other words. It sounds like a mistake. Some people frowned, not believing this at all. Eva lowered her head and couldn't see her expression clearly, but her clenched fists could still feel her shaking mood at the moment. She knows the current state of the Scarlet Snow sect best than anyone else. Carthage and Garan are mysterious, and they don't look like they belong to the Scarlet Snow sect completely. She has been secretly investigating Carthage and Garan recently. The information she received shocked her, and she became more and more suspicious of the 2 of them. Especially the strength of the 2 of them, the growth rate has reached a terrifying level. It only takes a few decades for them to achieve the strength that others need hundreds or even thousands of years to achieve. Such a genius performance, at the same time such an abnormal phenomenon appeared in the Little Red Snow sect. In this precarious situation, the 2 elders suddenly died again. The entire Chixu sect has reached the point of life and death. I do not believe. The Silver Fox chief executive stood up and said loudly, looking a little lost. Father talked to me a week ago. How could he die? He was talking about the great elder, who was his direct son. Another female manager next to her also showed an expression of disbelief, stood up suddenly, and spoke the same way. Yes, my grandfather sent me a message 3 days ago, asking me to find him the latest Blue Eagle stone. His old man has been stationed at the headquarters for hundreds of years. Who can enter the headquarters silently and kill him? You too will not be demoted if you die. Second elder, her grandfather is the third elder. After all, as the chief executive who can enter the tribunal, it is unlikely that the two of them would have entered if they did not have the relationship between the two elders. Presumptuous, the second elder's majestic voice suddenly interrupted her, and his unfailing momentum was instantly suppressed, suppressing the two of them fiercely. The hall was shaken violently. A huge, almost suffocating white light slowly covered the entire surface of the trial court, making the air seem extremely depressing. How dare you question what I said? The second elder stared at the two of them coldly. Somebody come. Two white armored guards suddenly appeared behind the two senior managers. Take them down, put them in jail, and execute them tomorrow. Execution. At this moment, not only the two of them couldn't believe it and thought they had heard wrongly, but also everyone present thought they had heard wrongly. Are you going to be executed just for questioning an elder? To execute two inheritance masters who have been working conscientiously in the Chixu sect? Is the second elder crazy? Or, maybe the death of the other two elders has a lot to do with the second elder? For a moment, Eva Alice and other high-ranking officials all thought of this possibility, feeling that the situation was getting more and more weird. The life and death of the two elders are unknown. These are two veteran masters who have not been demoted. It is not possible for the second elder to make people believe that they are dead just by talking. Without definite evidence and information, no one will believe that they are really dead. Want to kill first and then show off, a guess flashed through someone's mind. The two of them were instantly imprisoned by the eternal light. Their whole body skills were like useless people. They were directly suppressed by two white armored guards and prepared to drag them down. The hall was completely silent, and no one dared to stand up. The second elder was very strange at this moment. He was not as calm and low-key as before, but instead seemed a little irritable. Etc. Suddenly a voice suddenly sounded. Soft and cool. The echo echoed in the hall, immediately attracting everyone's attention. It's Alice. The second-ranked Uehui helmsman finally made his voice at this time. What do you have to say? The second elder stared at Alice coldly. Although the strength of everyone in the third heart was hidden, this woman's was the deepest among them. When Renee was rescued, she was actually able to hold her back. It is simply incredible that Carthage was not damaged. Aren't the second elders afraid that a heritage-level master will be executed just because of a few words of contradiction and questioning? Alice said calmly. Garen watched this scene with interest. He was originally ready to stand up, but to his surprise, Alice came out first. The strength of the entire Chixu sect, even without the two elders and guardians, and not counting myself at this moment, would not be much worse. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1079. Alice is mysterious and may have the strength to survive. Among the three disciples, there are 8 at the inheritance level, except for the dead Renee, Carthage, Baya and the mysterious boy Ling Guang. Among the big managers, the 4 present are the 4 strongest, and there are also 35 inheritance level ones, who live in seclusion across the planet, or manage the affairs of the school, and come back once every 50 years to report on their work. This is also a huge force. It is said that some of the top managers have also created their own branches of the school, and there are also inheritance masters among their apprentices, which is also a huge number. A rough calculation shows that the entire Chixu sect can at least integrate more than 60 inheritance level masters, and 2 of them will not fall down. This was unimaginable by the Black Annihilation sect back then. This is equivalent to the merger of all the forces in the entire Black Pan domain. The power of, and even stronger. After all, energy mechanics of the same level are stronger than mechanics, and skill mechanics are stronger than ordinary energy mechanics. In this way, one heritage level energy mechanic can deal with at least two heritage level mechanics, under the same level conditions. The second elder looked at Alice fiercely for a moment, and then calmed down. Since it's Alice who begged for mercy, let's spare them for once. Only then did the two white armored guards let go of the two of them. The two of them were already sweating profusely from fear. They were still frightened and their hearts were beating wildly after returning from the gate of hell. Okay, Garen slowly walked out and said with a smile. Every inheritance level is my most precious strength, Chixu. How can the teacher execute such talented elites at will? Doesn't this make the supervisors stationed outside feel cold? Stop being so hypocritical here, Eva said coldly. She could already tell that something was wrong with the second elder. It was not just her, but all of these powerful weapon masters had lived to such a long age. As long as there was a little clue that something was wrong, a lot of things could be inferred. However, to Ava's surprise, the second elder, who had looked irritable just now, actually nodded very gently, obviously agreeing with Garen's words. Garen is right. I was really too excited just now. Okay, let's get to the topic. The second elder became serious. This tribunal meeting is mainly to hand over the power of the section from now on. All elder authority and management transfer authority will be in charge of Sangzan Galan. These words were like a thunderbolt, instantly exploding in the courtroom, leaving everyone present blank. Let Garen be in charge of everything? Teacher, are you kidding me? Eva finally couldn't help but speak loudly. Her almond-shaped eyes widened, as if she didn't expect that the teacher would give such an order. Absolute. It is definitely controlled by Garen. At that time, Garen was already so powerful and terrifying. He was definitely cooperating with Carthage to take advantage of the teacher's unpreparedness and use some unknown method to control the teacher. This was definitely the case. Thinking of this, hatred filled her head, and her eyes almost burst into flames as she glared at Garen. Why do you let Garen be in charge of everything? Aloran also stood up and said loudly. He is only rank 10 or above. Even if he has to supervise the entire faction, it should still be senior sister Alice. Junior brother Garen is extremely talented, but he shouldn't be in charge of everything yet, right? Alice also spoke. The entire hall was filled with biting cold wind. Not only the three hearts, but also Chief Executive Binghu and Hungwo also murmured in low voices. There were also other bystanders. Although the senior officials brought by the three hearts did not have the right to speak in the meeting, they only had the right to speak in the meeting. Although they were watching, they couldn't help but communicate in low voices at this time. For a moment, the trial court became noisy, and the buzzing discussion was like a swarm of bees. Are you questioning me? The second elder's face darkened, and the eternal light suddenly covered and spread again. Suppress the momentum of everyone present. Second elder, are you planning to use force to suppress everything? Alice took a step forward, her whole body suddenly burst into ice blue eternal light, and snorted. A blue beam of light rose into the sky. The entire hall is directly divided into two parts, one is white and the other is blue. What is surprising is that the second elder, who is the strongest among the elders, is retreating steadily. His eternal light does not have the previous vision of condensing snowflakes like the whistling wind, but it just touched Alice's. The light that does not fall instantly dissipates. The two tyrannical lights of eternal light suppressed everything. Those who were not at the level of Unfallen could only watch like this. The light of eternal light was much stronger than the force field of the heritage level. Even if they were at the same level, they would not be able to participate in the confrontation. Second senior sister, are you trying to deceive me? Garen also took a step forward. "There's no place for you to talk here," a voice sounded. "Laugh." A white ice crystal suddenly shot towards Garen's head and was shattered by him with a snap of his fingers. The ice crystals shattered into countless flashing white dots in mid-air. "Really?" Garen smiled slightly. Boom. The most terrifying and powerful force of eternal light suddenly burst out from his body, surging crazily in all directions. Eva's face turned pale as she shot out the ice crystals, and she stepped back dozens of steps, her back pressed against the huge ice statue, and she gasped for air. There was despair and disbelief in his eyes. How is it possible? Not falling down the grade. Jingmao and others also showed shocked expressions. They were at the peak of the inheritance level not long ago, and now they have reached the level of non-fall? Even the original Carthage was not so fast. Monster, Aloran stared at Garen with fear in his eyes. This was beyond the scope of genius. 3 tyrannical rays of light stirred up a confrontation in the tribunal. It was not the 3 forces fighting against each other, but the eternal light of Garen who forcibly suppressed the second elder and Alice. Elder brother entrusted everything to me when he left. With the trust and support of the teacher, and now the life and death of the 2 elders are uncertain, is there anyone else who can shoulder the important responsibility better than me? Garen smiled and looked at the pressure. The 3 hearts were so suppressed that they could not speak, and there were also a group of senior managers surrounding them. The cold wind howled, causing his robe to billow up and down, and the gentle and cold smile on his face not only chilled Eva and Aloran, but even the second elder also showed some faint fear. Garen raised his hand. Boom. A huge pressure suddenly fell on Alice. Alice's body instantly flew backwards and was embedded in the ice and snow statue behind her with a bang, causing large pieces of ice and snowflakes to fall. The air froze, and the huge and terrifying fist pressure instantly hit the surface of Alice's body like real air pressure, making it impossible for her to hold up her body and fall off. She struggled to open her mouth to speak, but a stronger pressure suddenly hit her, suppressing her next words. If it hadn't been for the breakthrough, a trace of shame and anger flashed in her eyes. Who else has an opinion? Garen looked around. The hall was quiet, no one dared to speak. Even the second senior sister who was not demoted has been suppressed. Who dares to speak now? Very good. The second elder withdrew his eternal light and smiled with satisfaction. It seems that everyone has no objection to my proposal, so from now on, Garen will be the top manager of our Red Snow section. After that, I will report to the Lord Guardian and apply for his qualification as the successor leader. Party leader. The 3 hearts below all have different expressions. The faction leader? How many years has it been since anyone could inherit this position? The faction leader must agree with all the elders and guardians before he can accept the test of will of the ice hell. But now no one dares to ask Garen if he has passed the test of will in the ice hell. No need. Garen smiled slightly. No need to apply for guardian anymore. Under everyone's puzzled gaze, he walked directly towards the highest point of the trial court. As he walked out step by step, white cold air continued to emanate from his body, turning into white light surrounding him. There is more and more white light, and more white gas. Call. Garen raised his arms, and a pair of sharp arm armor as white as jade appeared on his hands. An extremely pure chill radiated from the arm armor. This is, the second elder's pupils shrank instantly. Step by step, Garen slowly stepped into the void, as if there were invisible steps supporting his feet, walking towards the highest point of the tribunal. With every step he took, a piece of ice-clear armor gradually appeared on Garen's body. When he reached the highest point and was level with the statue, he was completely dressed in a set of gorgeous white armor made of ice, with sharp horns guarding him from his waist. A huge helmet that looked like a crescent moon appeared out of thin air on Garen's head, completely covering his entire face. Countless cold air condensed out of thin air to form an ice chair, suspended in the air. Garen turned around and slowly sat on the seat in the air. Buzz. The hall slowly shook, and all the ice statues tens of meters high began to shake. Garen, who was wearing ice armor, was beyond the scope of what ordinary weapon masters could understand, and his aura of power filled the entire place. For everyone, level 9 and level 7 are heights that they cannot reach. They are both out of reach and absolutely powerful. In fact, there is no difference. Boom. The sky was thundering during the day, and countless black clouds appeared out of thin air, swirling and rolling, covering directly above Garan. Garen looked down at everything below. The three hearts were all suppressed by the aura and their faces turned red. Eva, Alolan and others were still holding on, but Jingmao Yaling and the others had already obeyed without resisting. He just looked at himself with an unprecedented awe. The second elder had already stood up, with a respectful look on his face. It was obvious that he no longer cared about being discovered or not. Under absolute power, everything is in vain. As for the other senior managers and the people watching the ceremony, they couldn't even raise their heads to look directly at themselves. The difference in strength was too great. Just seeing a little bit of the white light he had now, he felt a biting and irresistible chill, and he might be frozen in an instant. From today on, Garen's voice spread throughout the Chixu headquarters. I, Garen, officially succeed as the 69th leader of the Chixu section. No one dared to refute, and no one could refute. The cold air surging through Garen's body directly sealed everyone's mouths. At this time when the sect is in crisis, I, Jialong, will work hard to create the most glorious hegemony in the ages. This proves that my highest level of secret martial arts will never be inferior to that of Mechas. Garen added quietly in his heart. All disciples, obey. The second elder immediately understood and ordered loudly. Present. He was the first to actually bend down and bow. His subordinates immediately followed suit and saluted, expressing their submission. Most of the people who were shocked by Galen's power also followed suit and saluted. For them, as long as they were within the sect and strong enough, they could be the leader of the sect. Only Alice, Ava, and Aloran still gritted their teeth and held on. But there is no way to affect the overall situation, everything has been determined. There are two elders taking the lead, and with the other two elders missing and the guardians not showing up, no one in the sect can resist Garen's people. This is reality, naked reality. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1080. I wish the leader of the sect great success and great glory, the second elder shouted loudly in cooperation. He opened his arms, and the unfailing light emitted brightly, rising into the sky, forming a soaring light pillar in the trial court, as flawless as white jade. Laugh. The beam of light shot up from the trial court and pierced the sky, but was completely swallowed up by the black clouds in the sky, causing no waves at all. I wish the leader of the sect great success and great glory. I sincerely wish the leader of the sect to achieve supreme glory for a long time to come. It will surely achieve supreme glory. The reverberating sounds of the crowd continued to pile up, getting louder and louder like waves from near to far. Garen sat on the ice throne, his entire figure hidden by a ferocious and thick ice armor, and the face underneath him could not be seen at all. Although the time was short, the arrangement of the second elder was very satisfactory. After Carthage left, all the forces controlled by Carthage automatically came into his hands. This also caused most people in the entire Chixu sect to regard themselves as Carthage, the successor of Taiji. Originally, all this was left to Giliaci. It's a pity that you miscalculated. When Garen saw this scene, he already knew that Carthage would never come back and would definitely change his identity. The Red Snow sect had been almost controlled. He might have gone to another place. Other factions lurk, or host secret plans. Giliasi, do you need our help? Suddenly a sharp voice came into Garen's ears. The sound is very distinctive, almost unforgettable after hearing it once. It's a red robe. Garen instantly remembered the owner of this voice. This is already my territory. If you have nothing to do, go find Carthage yourself. Garen responded to the message lightly. He noticed that several of the three hearts below had vague intentions of leaving, and their eyes flickered, apparently communicating secretly. However, he did not stop it. No matter whether he left or not, the Red Snow sect now needed a major purge. From top to bottom, all the power must be completely grasped before the crisis came. Since he has inherited the will of all ancestors being, he must keep his promise and do his best to carry forward the Chixu sect so as to live up to the trust entrusted by his predecessors. The departure of these three hearts that do not return has little impact on the overall situation and is of no importance. On the contrary, it helps to gather further strength of the entire genre. He, it seems your control is not stable enough. Hungbao laughed sharply. Don't forget the plan of Lord Carthage. The competition must be launched on time. As one of the three major centers, the Chixu sect is one of the three centers. If you fail to complete the set tasks, you and I will understand the consequences. The red robe showed no emotion in front of everyone. He was worried that he might be exposed, so he started communicating with Garen just like that. I need you to tell me what to do. Garen shook his hand slightly on the armrest. Peng. Snow-white ice flakes suddenly exploded in the air in the trial court. Countless fragments splashed down crystal clear, accompanied by a sharp scream of a red figure. The red figure tore and completely shattered and dispersed, turning into several pieces of red cloth falling down. There was no more sound. I have 64 cups of red snow wine here, which is specially given to me as a reward for outstanding masters of the red snow section. It can have a great effect on increasing physical fitness and greatly improve one's own strength, Garen said with one hand. Draw. 64 ice crystal wine glasses suddenly appeared in front of him. They were filled with a mellow, green-looking liquid that exuded a strong aroma of wine. 64 glasses of ice crystal wine were suspended under the ice throne. With a snap, the wine glass suddenly flew downwards, and part of the wine automatically fell in front of everyone present, floating in the air. To celebrate my official entrance into the palace today, this is the red snow secret wine I obtained from the ice hell. I will share it with you. I hope that we can work together to create a grand scene of red snow. Garen's cold and low voice sounded. A trace of majesty with power vibrated out from under the ice armor and spread throughout the trial court. This Jingmao frowned, his intuition telling him that the glass of wine in front of him was harmless to him, but the cold air emanating from it was extremely tempting to him, as if it was the greatest delicacy in the world. But rationally, he told himself that Galleon could not be so generous. Everyone was distributing this kind of strength-enhancing wine equally, and there must be some means to it. He glanced at Alice. The leader of Yuehui not only had influence and strength in the Chixu sect, but also had his own consortium power in the mortal world. Even if he left the Chixu sect, he could stand on his own. She clearly had eyes for it. He wanted to leave, but at this time he was suppressed by the huge pressure and could not escape at all, so he broke away from the ice statue. At this time, he fell into a decision that might be poisonous wine. It's impossible for Garen to let Alice leave without relegation. The purpose of this meeting is not to hold a meeting, but to seize the opportunity to take power and control all the upper echelons. Jingmao lamented in his heart, seeing Aloran. Eva, look at yourself with your eyes. I remembered that I went on a mission with Garen not long ago, the terrifying bottomless potential of strength. In desperation, he stretched out his hand to hold the wine glass, and a biting cold feeling suddenly passed from the glass into his body. It made him shiver involuntarily. Hiss. In one sip, Jingmao drank the entire drink without any hesitation. Instead of savoring the taste of the wine, he drank it all in one gulp. Around the same time, Solomon Yaling also drank with an indifferent laugh. She never had any fixed position, she just recognized the benefits, her preferences were fickle, and her personality was weird. As for who was in power, as long as she was strong enough it doesn't matter to her whether he is strong or not. The two Sangzan drank, and the huge body of the ball fish looked at Alice with a grimace, and then looked at the ferocious and thick ice armor above his head, knowing that he would not be able to leave here if he didn't drink. "I'm sorry, Alice," he muttered silently in his mind and drank the drink in one gulp. Everyone present actually understood that there was no way to leave the court without drinking the wine. The terrifying cold air flowing freely above Galen is proof of this. The cold air turned into substantial white smoke and has surrounded the entire tribunal, making the top of the mountain look like a fairyland. A few Sangzan took the lead to drink, and the rest of the people had no choice but to drink. Only Alice, Eva, and Aloran still didn't drink. "It tastes great. It's indeed the wine from the ice hell." New faction leader. "Is there any more?" "How about some more?" Mendi, the master of the energy weapon mark in Sangzan's face, looked red and drunk, and rushed up unceremoniously. Galleon shouted. "This guy has a rough personality. Although he is relatively withdrawn, that is just because he has few contacts with others. It is not that he does not understand the ways of the world. He only believes in his own intuition. His intuition tells him that Garen, the new leader of the faction, does not have any malicious intentions. So he simply didn't bother to think about it anymore. He always dismissed the fight between Yuehui and Xingpai. Now the second elder, as the backstage of Xingpai, fully supports Garen, which already represents the support of most of the forces in the section. Yuehui's Alice is alone and the situation has been decided. Obviously, there is no competition for the title, so he simply takes the initiative to show his kindness. There is plenty of wine, but only the first glass can enhance your strength, and nothing else. Galen smiled hoarsely, raised his hand slightly, and another glass of wine flew in front of Mendi, who held it carefully. "Taste it?" A man stood at the three-center position and smiled as he watched Alice and others struggling to hold on, still trying not to give in under the terrifying pressure and cold air. Nothing happened to the people who drank the wine, which made Alice and others a little confused. Maybe the wine had no effect at all, but was just used by Garen to deceive the enemy. The current situation is that Garan is overwhelming the whole place. If you don't drink, you can't even think of leaving here. Neither Alice nor Eva can clearly see the details of Galleon. Being able to reach such a height in such a short period of time cannot be explained by talent. There is definitely a huge unknown secret behind it. Alice gritted her teeth and glanced at Eva. "Will they let us leave if we drink?" she asked coldly, looking at Garen. To everyone's expectation, Garen actually raised his hand slightly. "You can choose not to drink, just don't regret it." He actually put on the air of whether you like to drink or not. "You can leave if you want. Of course, even if you are outside, you are still a member of our Chixu section. Everything you have is given to you by Chixu. Even if you don't admit it, unless you give up your skills, to outsiders, you are still the origin of the Red Snow sect cannot be changed," Garen said calmly. At this time, the sound of drinking continued, and everyone, including Hungwo, drank. Nothing unusual happens. This actually made the three Alices relax their vigilance. "Okay, I'll drink." Alolan grabbed the wine glass decisively and drank it in one gulp. Snapped. The wine glass was smashed, and she turned around and left. She flew directly out of the court hall and quickly turned into a stream of light and flew away. From the beginning to the end, Garen just watched with cold eyes, without any intention of intercepting. Seeing this, Eva and Alice both grabbed the wine glasses decisively, drank the wine in one gulp, and at the same time turned around and flew away from the courtroom. After the 3 people left, only 9 people were left out of the original 15 or 13. The strongest people had left, and now the strongest one was Jing Mao. He sighed, looked around, and felt much deserted. Second Elder, let's start integrating all the inheritance levels of the sect now, and order all inheritance levels and above to gather at the headquarters on Chixu Star within a week. Anyone who disobeys the order will be punished with treason. Garen ordered calmly. The armor on his body became thicker and thicker. It seemed that as time passed, the entire armor became thicker and thicker, becoming larger and bulkier, almost condensing and merging with the ice throne. This is the activation phenomenon of his continuous understanding of the higher level realm and power essence of Chixugong in the armor. He needs to understand how the ancestor entered the 9th level without comprehending the disc. It stands to reason that anyone above level 8 must understand the realm of Pen, but the first ancestor directly crossed this threshold. This is an extremely valuable experience. Even if he has all kinds of trump cards and confidence to break through this level, it can save a little time. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1081. The second elder took the order and began to issue orders. The masters who had drunk below had completely given up. Even those who were unwilling to give up or were unwilling to give up temporarily stopped their selfish motives and ostensibly cooperated with the orders. In case it is used to scare the monkeys now. No one who has lived for so many years is a fool. Everyone can see clearly that the 3 Alices may not be killed because of Garen's old feelings, but the others may not be treated so well. Some well-informed weapon masters have recognized that Garen's aura phenomenon at this time may have gone beyond the scope of not falling down, and quietly conveyed this possibility, and suddenly the entire court of the main hall was filled with awe. Garen was sitting on the ice seat at this time, and he was also thinking about the operation of the entire red snow section among the drinks. Except for the drinks for Alice and the other 3, there were no added ingredients, and the rest were added with twisted seeds. At this time, the power of his twisted seed is even more terrifying. It can increase the physical fitness of the parasite by 6 times. However, due to the upper limit of human physical fitness, this increase will be twisted and transformed into another form, which is ice armor. The excess amplified power will automatically cover the parasite when activated, forming an extremely powerful ice armor that can be enhanced in disguise to 6 times the maximum value of the parasite's own quality. This is very similar to Galleon's current situation. But even so, this increase is also extremely terrifying. As long as Garen gives the order to activate it, everyone's physical fitness will instantly increase 6 times, reaching a very short and terrifying level. You must know that all the inheritance level energy masters present have reached the limit of their own quality, which is the limit of 20-point attributes. Once the increase is 6 times, it will be 120 points. This terrifying level has directly squeezed into the non-falling level with strength. If the effect is really as good as imagined, then I will instantly have a lot of non-degraded combat power on hand. Garen closed his eyes and rested. It seemed that he was quietly waiting for the order to be issued. All the heritage level masters gathered, but he was thinking about various possible emergencies. He must seize the opportunity to completely control the entire Red Snow sect in one fell swoop, hunt down all the spies in Carthage, and turn all of them into their own power with the seeds of distortion. This was his only thought at this time. Time passes minute by minute, and to an energy mechanic, even a few months' time is insignificant. It is equivalent to a few days for an average person. No one was impatient, and even if they were, they didn't dare to show it. One day passed. There was a white-haired weapon master who brought his apprentice to the headquarters. He was quickly led to the tribunal, given the seed of distortion drink, and then gathered near the main hall to rest. The reclusive executives and reclusive masters from far away came to the headquarters one after another. What surprised Garen was that 2 old men among them actually hid their strength and had directly broken through to the point of not being demoted. These 2 old men are the 2 brothers Bing Krak and Bing Hao, who live in seclusion at the Antarctic base. They are veteran masters of the same generation as the second elder. When they failed to compete for the position of elder, they became frustrated and retired to live in seclusion. Unexpectedly, they unexpectedly broke through. Class. Although I don't know how they broke through, no matter what the result is, now is the time when strong manpower is needed, and Garen can't care so much. The twisted seed was given some wine, and only the 8th level of pressure was released, making the 2 old men and their 4 disciples drink the wine obediently. The hidden potential of the Scarlet Snow sect is extremely huge. To Garen's expectation, on the 5th day, some masters arrived one after another from alien planets. Many of them were masters who had been sent to other planets. Among the senior officials, there is even one person who is 1 generation higher than the second elder. He is a veritable longevity star. He is now 5,602 years old. He is also not inferior in strength, but he has already reached his peak. Very domineering. This man arrived with a group of disciples, looking menacing and obviously preparing to seize the opportunity to seize power. He also brought several friends from other sects to help strengthen his momentum. It's a pity that when I met Garen, only the 8th level aura was released, and a group of people were like shriveled eggplants. One by one, those above the inheritance level obediently accepted the distortion seed drink and became parasites. This kind of parasitism will not take effect directly, but it will slowly and subtly affect the will and soul of the parasite, causing it to gradually transform into the cold peacock child body, thus creating an absolutely irresistible soul of the mother peacock, although it will not be absolutely obey its orders, but you must not have the slightest intention to disobey the mother body, and you will be integrated with the mother body in life and death. At the same time, your affinity for cold energy is greatly improved, and at the same time, you naturally carry the innate ability of the chaotic cold realm. This is the horror of the peacock in the cold territory. When countless armies carrying high-level chaos cold territory abilities spread out to devour and plunder, the entire world will fall into a real state of collapse if it is not contained. This old man who tried to seize power was subdued by Garen, and more than 30 inheritance-level masters he brought with him were also parasitized by the seeds of distortion. Among them were not only the elders of the Scarlet Snow sect, but also masters of other sections. This can be regarded as bringing good benefits to Garen's ascension to the throne. Half a month later, the overall situation was decided. The entire Chixu sect was controlled by the Twisted Seed. None of the masters above the inheritance level noticed that they were being parasitized. Instead, they felt that the wine began to slowly strengthen their body's recovery power. At the same time, a layer of ice armor gradually emerged on his body, retracting and releasing it freely. While wearing armor, his qualities and strength in all aspects are greatly improved. Garen has been sitting high above the tribunal. A huge white icicle has naturally condensed under the Ice King's seat, connecting the ice seat to the main hall below. Garen's entire armor had completely integrated with the ice seat and was fixed on the seat. The rest of the people were scattered by him, leaving him alone in the entire hall. The extremely terrifying cold current continues to flow and linger in the hall, turning this place into a real ice hell. As long as any living creature enters here for a moment, even the soul and will be instantly frozen, falling into a state of absolute stagnation, and then quickly being galvanized. All things withered and the cold gradually swallowed them up. Unless they are masters above the inheritance level who have been parasitized by his twisted seeds. The sky in the tribunal hall has been shrouded in swirling black clouds ever since Garen took the throne, with thunder rolling from time to time, which was oppressive and cold. The entire hall was glowing with a faint blue light, and balls of icy blue flames danced from time to time, burning slowly on the torch. Garen sat on the ice seat, his eyes emitting a cold blue light. There were more and more patterns on the armor on his body. Traces like knife carvings appeared on the surface of the armor. Some places on his back had grown something like ice spikes on wings. These spikes are blue-black, sharp, and layered without any rules. From a distance, they look like a pile of bird wings stacked together, with no symmetry at all. but it gives people a faint sense of sacred and majestic sharpness. The large number of wing spikes are wide and slender, almost becoming the most conspicuous symbol of the entire tribunal. Compared with the galleons and ice seats, which are only a few meters tall, the blue-black wings on his back, which are more than 10 meters long, are truly the most eye-catching feature. Looking from a distance, you can only see the endless chill emitting from those piled wings, which makes people feel chilled all over even if they are thousands of meters away just by looking at them. It has been half a month since Garen integrated all the masters. The sky was calm without a trace of cloud. All the clouds were gathered and pulled over the tribunal, where they formed a black vortex that seemed to never stop. But the rest of the place was covered with clear skies and no chill at all, as if the entire headquarters suddenly changed from winter to summer. Laugh. Suddenly, inside a building somewhere in the headquarters, a light blue beam of light rose into the sky. Directly piercing the dazzling stars in the sky, the light blue halo emitted almost covered up the golden sunlight. I've made a breakthrough. I've made a breakthrough. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. A burst of maniacal laughter was deafening, echoing over half of the headquarters. On a path between palace buildings, Eva and Alolan looked at the light beam in the sky in shock. That's the eternal light. Eva said in disbelief. Who else in the genre can break through so quickly without falling down the ranks in a short period of time? Is it Jing Mao? Impossible. That's not the voice of Jing Mao. Aloran was also shocked and murmured in a low voice. Since Garen dominated the entire Chixu, they angrily left the tribunal, which was full of insider information. They wanted to leave alone, but they couldn't find out. They both had their own relatives, and they were both two huge families, up and down. There were no less than hundreds of people, parents, relatives, children, and grandchildren. Almost all of them live under the shadow of the Chixu sect and cannot escape at all. He could only keep an eye out of sight, secretly investigating the truth behind the elders' changes, and at the same time quietly transfer his family and property. I thought that if I and others did not support Garen, the Scarlet Snow sect and the missing two elders would have some impact on their strength, but now it seems that someone has broken through and not fallen down. It's not Jing Mao. Who is that? Alice sighed. I just received the news. Garen released the latest intelligence 2 weeks ago. Nebula and Black Knife started a war, which affected a wide area. The war has spread to 3 countries. There are more than 10 planets, and our Red Snow sect is also within the affected area. The grand competition ceremony has been postponed, and now it is far away. Then what should we do now? Alolan looked at the eternal light, a trace of envy flashed in his eyes, and he asked in despair. I heard that 2 eternal holy lords have already participated. At this level, we, the Red Snow sect, can only hide in the headquarters, restrain everything, and wait for the results. Alice was depressed. But such a wish may not come true. You mean? Aloran suddenly thought of something. Yeah. That one will probably come. Alice nodded. Tisk tisk tisk. Suddenly, 3 more light pillars shot up into the sky. All are eternal lights? Alice's eyes widened at this time, and Aloran was even more stunned. What is going on? She opened her mouth and stared at the 4 white-blue light pillars rising into the sky, unable to close her mouth for a long time. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1082. In the dark blue court hall. How is the situation? Garen's voice sank from a high place, grand and broad, giving people a feeling of incomparable majesty. The second elder and the other 2 old men stood quietly in the middle of the hall in a fan shape. The 2 old men looked very similar. They seemed to be twin brothers. They were very old, with white hair and white beards. They each held a black crutch in their hands, and their white robes were slightly bulging due to the cold air. They are the brothers Bing Crack and Bing Hao who returned to the headquarters from the polar base. The 2 have not been demoted. After obtaining the distortion seed, their strength has entered an unfathomable situation. Coupled with the obscure aura on their bodies, even Garen didn't know what level they had reached. After all, the greater the strength base of the parasite of the twisted seed, the more terrifying the increase will be. After the second elder obtained the seed of distortion, he was promoted from the lowest level without being demoted to the peak level without being demoted. He has barely regained the majesty of the second elder, but now he is somewhat timid in front of the ice-cracked Bing Hao. If Garen hadn't checked, the real second elder had been completely killed by Carthage, leaving only this body for this guy to parasitize. If he hadn't taken over the body of the second elder, he would have killed him with a knife. This disgusting piece of trash. The statistics are out, the second elder reported with a flattering smile. There are 167 inheritance level people in the whole sect, and most of them have recently broken through. With the increase of Chixuwine, they have all obtained ice armor, and their strength has been greatly improved. Tell me the important point, Garen said coldly. Yes, the second elder, the parasite whose real name is Dangzi, quickly cut the story short. Among them, the number of people who are not relegated has been completely stabilized at around 11 people. 11 people? Is it possible there will be more? Garen asked in a low voice. The increase may not be big, Dangzi, the fake second elder, quickly replied. Since we are a secret martial arts sect, we must restore the glory of secret martial arts. Garen's heart flashed. From now on, the elder system will be abandoned, and all those who will not be demoted will be included in the new position of Ice Demon General. The authority will be 1/3 of the original elders. Leader of the faction, these are 11 people. Isn't that too many? Bing Hao frowned at the side. More? How come it's so much? Garen didn't care. I still think it's too little, so I've decided. In addition, I'll name the ice armor Ice Demon Armor. You guys should step back. Yes. The three of them resigned respectfully. The stronger they got, the more terrifying they felt the aura on Garen's body, and the more they felt the gap between them and Garen. After the three people left, another snow-white old man slowly walked into the hall. It was Asho Bingyang, who originally wanted to fight for power and return within the faction. An old man who is more than 5,600 years old. At this time, he looked similar to those old gentlemen, wearing a white slim-fitting suit and short platinum hair, with a strand of hair hanging down from the right temple. A small patch of white beard remained on his chin, but the rest was clean-shaven. One hand is holding a white cane, and the other hand is holding the exquisite glasses that he just took off. His posture is upright and his face is solemn. The first moment anyone sees him, the impression they feel must be clean, elegant, calm. But at the same time, such a face can also give people a very ambitious sense of power. Sect leader, what do you want to see me for? Bingyang asked in a low voice with a hint of awe from deep within. As the most well-informed family, what is the current situation? Garen went straight to the point. Asho had been collecting information these days, and now is the time to understand. In terms of the situation, something is not right. The competition has been postponed. Magnetic Field has not given a specific answer, but there is news from many small and medium-sized schools that this competition is likely to lead to a reshuffle of the three major organizations. Asho Bingyang replied in a low voice, I am sending people to conduct a careful investigation. Because of the uncertainty of the news, I have not reported it to the leader for the time being. Is there any movement from Alice and the others? No, they want to leave, but now there are wars and disputes, and the nearby stargates are controlled by big factions. It is okay to leave alone, but it will be very troublesome when there are more people, Asho Bingyang explained. Garen also understood that this may be the work of the three major organizations, but it is more likely that it was the situation promoted by Carthage and others. Only by closing the Stargate can we catch all the energy masters in one fell swoop. But no matter what, the Chixu sect survived the original storm. As one of the surviving sects, the Chixyu sect was eliminated in the Battle of Ice Valley more than 100 years later. It seems like this is just enough time to settle your own affairs. Garen's eyes flickered. Get ready. You will be in charge of the faction for the time being. I want to go out for a while. Going out, Asho Bingyang was slightly startled. Faction leader, at this time, the situation within the faction has just stabilized, and wars are raging outside. We need powerful people like you, faction leader, to take charge. Now that you are out, you are likely to let the faction. My heart is unstable. He is not hypocritical but really considers this. Although he wants to seize power, in this kind of war period, strength is the only foundation. Having a powerful figure like Garen sitting at the rear is also a reassurance. It doesn't matter. I have my own arrangements, Garen said calmly. The merchant alliance has completely shrunk. The business will first discard all the peripheral parts and return to the headquarters of Chixyu Star. All the experts from Naga Star will also return. There are enough resources in stock. We have been using it for hundreds of years, and during this time we can just wait quietly for the war to pass. Since the leader of the faction has made a decision, I won't give any more advice. But the leader of the faction, the current situation has not reached this level, right? Garen remained calm and tapped the seat with his knuckles. Snapped. A silver star map suddenly appeared in the air between the two of them. The star map is in a square shape, and it is densely packed with twinkling stars. Each star represents a planet. These are two major nebulae. The human race and the finite race are divided on both sides. Garen raised his finger, and the square star map was immediately divided into two large blocks, one red and one blue. The human logo appears on the blue part, while the finite logo appears on the red part. Hiss. The human nebula quickly enlarged and occupied the entire square star map, making the entire star map blue. We are here. Garen raised his finger and pointed lightly. Buzz. A small irregular area suddenly appeared in the rearmost corner of the blue star map, turning white, with the symbol of the Energy Master appearing on it. Whether it's the positive space universe or the counter space universe, our star field is only so big, less than 1/10 of the entire human race area. Galen continued. Asho Bingyang frowned in confusion. However, we occupy 1/3 of the resources of the entire human race, or even more. Garen changed his subject and became more and more low-key. Asho Bingyang was shocked. You're saying that the pilots may be against us? That's impossible. Our capable mechanics have king-level support. Nothing is impossible, Garen said lightly. By now, perhaps many top people have figured out the clues. This is already an open secret. But the Stargate is blocked, and we have no way to escape. If this is really the case, then you can't leave. Asho was horrified and said in a deep voice. I have my plans and plans, you don't have to worry. Garen raised his hand to stop him from speaking. Besides, I might take someone with me. Don't worry. Asho frowned, feeling that the situation was getting more complicated and weird. For this sect leader who has always been mysterious, he feels more and more unfathomable. As a small sect, the Chixyu sect can actually know such high-level information. One can imagine how many trump cards this new sect leader has. Deep. In that case, who are you going to ask to go with you? Turing, Garen whispered with a smile. Home planet. Central College. The vast Central Academy Hightower Castle stands quietly on an island in the middle of the ocean. The White Castle is in the shape of an irregular triangular pyramid, and it is full of black holes like honeycombs. A large number of small spacecrafts are constantly coming from the honeycomb mouths. In and out. A flock of white seabirds flew around the castle from time to time, making a squawking sound. Blue sky, white clouds, sunshine, beach, and white seagulls, plus the White Castle spire standing in the middle. A spaceship in the sky slowly emits a white projection. Celebrating the 3000th anniversary of Central College. The white projection is stationary, constantly moving across the sky, on display for anyone passing below. The castle is surrounded by white roads extending in all directions, and exquisite and gorgeous cars are constantly moving along it. Many of these cars are driven by student teachers, and occasionally you can see a mecha flying out of the castle and heading into the distance. In one of the cars, a tall, strong man looked at the huge central castle in admiration. It's so beautiful. I will definitely feel comfortable studying in this environment. Beach beauties in swimsuits, tisk. The man has a V-shaped white mark between his eyebrows, which seems to be an inlaid metal tattoo. He has short purple-black hair and is dressed the same as other students. A white t-shirt and jeans look very inconspicuous. No, if you want to go back to Black Pen Academy, you can only transfer here. There is no other way. There is only a long-distance teleportation gate here. This thing is very expensive. A teleportation costs at least 10,000 general points. Unless you have money people, most people will choose to drive and fly there alive in a spaceship unless they have no choice. The driver was Luke, a student from Central College. I met him unexpectedly on the road and kindly gave him a lift. Luke is a standard kid from a rich family, and he is just an ordinary sophomore at Central College, just here to get gold. The two of them looked out the car window. The beach in the distance was golden, and from a distance they could see some girls and men in bikinis walking around and playing in the water. I heard that there are a lot of beauties in your black market. It is said that all the Maria area are women. Tisk, that's really good. It's a pity that my hometown is in Western Asia. Otherwise, we can go and see it together. Luke is a standard dandy, but I am enthusiastic and easy to make friends and like to travel. I also know a few friends from the Black Pen domain who are coming to Central College for further studies. How about you join them then? I don't care. As long as I can go back. Garen smiled faintly. He was teleported directly to the home star through the star portal. It cost 2 gold crystals to go from the red snow star to the home star, which was a huge expense, but unexpectedly, the teleportation gate on the home star was in disrepair in the early years, and the teleportation positioning was wrong, which directly threw him into the radiation zone in the wilderness. As a result, the home star is still in the interdomain blockade stage, and the human hunting wave is still at its peak. Garen could only sneak into the nearest domain, but he didn't expect it to be the Central Academy's territory, the largest in the Central Domain. He simply went directly to the Central Academy and borrowed the long-distance portal to return to the Black Pen territory. As a result, we met Luke on the road. According to him, he took the initiative to stop the car and take him for a ride because he saw that Garen had an extraordinary temperament and was obviously not an ordinary person. He wanted to make friends with him. So the two of them acted together. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1083. I don't know what's going on in the Black Disk domain recently, what changes have taken place. I haven't been back for a long time. After so many years since graduation, I really don't know if many things are still there. Galen sighed. People will always miss their hometown when they are away. This is human nature, Luke said with a smile. Speaking of which, your black star Diophy from the Black Disk domain is really amazing. He withstood the alliance between the two domains by himself and became the pillar of one domain at a young age. My sister especially admires him and has always regarded him as her own idol. Talking in my ears all day long. Garen shook his head. Black Star Diophy has actually become the pillar of the Black Disk domain. He doesn't know what changes have taken place in these years. The reputation has spread to the central government. It must be that the Black Pan domain has become very famous recently. Back then, General Feng Shen rebelled, and the vitality of the Black Pan territory was severely damaged. The Black Annihilation sect was divided into two parts, one in the Black Pan territory and the other in the Aurora territory. If Diofi hadn't come out of nowhere, there would probably be no Black Pan territory now. Our teacher in the war class regards this turning battle as a classic. Luke praised and said whatever he wanted to say to whoever he wanted to talk to. Garen came from the Black Disk territory, so he naturally only picked this topic. I don't know how my teacher is doing now, Garen sighed. We'll find out when we get back. Luke raised his hand and pointed forward. Did you see that the one in front is the long-distance portal, and the one on the far left leads directly to the Black Disk domain? Following his direction, Galen raised his eyes and looked forward, and sure enough he saw a row of tall round arched doors at the far end. In the middle of the doors, a thin film-like liquid with blue electric light was flowing. The door is tens of meters high and extremely huge. There are more than 10 doors in a row, and the names of different regions are hung on them. The one on the far right is the Black Pan domain. There is also the Aurora domain, and the others are just some names that I have never heard of. Obviously only those with a certain scale are eligible to arrange portals here. G. The car moved sideways and stopped. I can only send you here, Luke said with a smile. There are soldiers blocking the road ahead and not allowing the car to pass. It's okay. Thank you for sending me all the way here. Garen politely expressed his thanks. He looked up at the gate to the Black Disk domain. There were still a dozen or so people lined up at the door waiting for review and transmission. It's okay. Remember to apply for your teleportation card. You are not allowed to be teleported without that thing, Luke reminded kindly. Garen smiled. Don't worry. If you have time to come to the Black Pan territory, be sure to contact me. Hey, let's go. Luke waved and drove the car around the corner and left. Garen glanced at the electronic troubleshooter on the white road in front of him and strode over with a smile. Toot. After a slight check, Garen passed without any proof of identity. The original identification watch had long been destroyed by the Black Plate domain, but what meaning does a mere proof mean to him now? He queued up along the line and slowly waited for the review. He just used his inheritance level consciousness to easily get past it. Garen followed the flow of people and walked directly into the blue liquid of the huge portal, disappearing in an instant. The moment he entered the portal, the entire portal suddenly shook violently, and large ripples appeared on the surface. A high-energy creature just got in. Check the equipment quickly. Quick, quick, quick. Notify the Black Pan domain and issue a warning immediately. Among a group of stationed soldiers, several officers suddenly panicked and issued a series of instructions loudly. Why panic? I'm just borrowing away. A white-haired old man with a goatee appeared out of thin air in front of the portal, suspended in the air. Legendary Professor. Most of the soldiers were ordinary people, and they rarely had the opportunity to see the inheritance-level masters who could only be seen in the castle. At this time, there was an exclamation of surprise. The old man breathed an unknown sigh of relief. Fortunately, that boy Luke sent this old monster away safely. Recalling that his grandson had just sent him a message, saying that he met a scary guy on the way whose breath detector could not detect the limit at all, he rushed over immediately. Unexpectedly, after feeling it from a distance, he found that he was not an ordinary tyrant. Even the dean of the academy is far inferior to the huge Oro like the ocean. How could a master of this level appear on the home planet? The resources of the home star have long been scarce. Apart from some ruins, they are of little value. Not falling down is almost the strongest level. No matter how strong the masters are, most of them leave the home star to go to more prosperous places. It is impossible to come to such a barren place. Delay your own development. Anyway, as long as he is sent away, that's fine. The old man breathed a sigh of relief. Come here. Close the black disk domain portal immediately, he ordered loudly. There is something wrong with the portal and it needs to be repaired immediately. He himself flew directly to the main castle and had to report this matter immediately. His intuition told him that the direction of the Black Pan territory might change drastically in the future. The border city of Osiris in the Black Disk domain. Osiris is just a small town, but it is stationed by the Lion Legion, one of the 5 border legions. It is stationed by the Legion commander, level 5 pilot Lion King Ren. This is also the main checkpoint where the incoming and outgoing teleportation population is reviewed. Soldier mechas in black military uniforms guard the huge long-distance portal. The teleporters came out one by one, each dragging their own gifts and quickly began to walk away to make phone calls. Please show your watch and leave quickly from the safe intersection. This is a high radiation area. Please do not stay near the portal to avoid high radiation damage to the body. The sweet announcer kept giving instructions, and there were cars parked outside the railing in the distance. They were all vehicles coming to pick up their relatives and friends. The noisy crowd lined up, passed by the electronic scanners of the mecha soldiers, and then quickly left, one after another. Buzz. Suddenly, the entire portal vibrated with a large number of ripples, and then closed with a scoff. Garen had just stepped out of the portal when he felt the portal close behind him. Smiling slightly, he was not surprised at all. Luke's appearance, as well as the dark and distant observers on the road, let him know that Luke was not so kind to help him. Although the situation was a bit obvious, it was also expected. Taking a deep breath and closing his eyes, he felt the familiar smell in the air. Finally. Back here again. When I came back again, I saw that there were only level 1 and level 2 mecha soldiers around, and there was a breath of about level 4 hurriedly coming from a distance. It was probably the most powerful person in the area. I just came back from the most prosperous metropolis where masters are densely populated, and I feel the barren area where one can become a master at level 4. The huge gap made Garen shake his head slightly. In the 3 major cities, 4th level energy mechanics can only be regarded as technical personnel, and they are the largest group of staff. And here you can actually be a senior general guarding such an important portal. Still only a 4th level pilot. If such a pilot is thrown to Naga planet, he can only serve as a target for ordinary 1st and 2nd level disciples. Mixed in the crowd, he looked at a gorgeous spaceship flying quickly from the sky, and black standard mechas with discs on their backs jumped out. The teacher is the 7th Wind God General. There are also the biochemist Ba Meng and Ice Dragon, Phyla, and the 6th Wind God General who saved him. Faces from the past kept flashing through Garen's mind, but finally they settled on the face of a beautiful and heroic girl. Xylin. Garen let out a breath. It's time to end everything. Phyla, the 7th Wind God General, who almost caused him to die, and Bayman and, these 3 are the primary targets. As for the teacher, he once helped me, although he gave up in the end. Turing, what do you think I should do? Garen didn't move his lips and directly transmitted the sound with his consciousness. Turing has been hiding in the air around him. Galleon has been upgraded to the level of infallibility, and they have also been simultaneously improved to the level of infallibility. They are just wearing a cutting-edge invisibility cloak. It's just a home star. This is just a poor and backward area where the mechanic masters use it as a test area. With the power of the master, there is no need to worry about it at all. No one will try to offend the master because of the home star. Turing answered faithfully. I have lived here for many years, and there are many people I have known here, Galen said lightly. The master's will is the fate of the mother planet. Turing's voice came slowly. The wind was blowing, and the sun fell on me, giving me a warm feeling. There was silence for a long time. Garen laughed slowly. In that case. He slowly closed his eyes, and an invisible wave of power slowly spread. The sky gradually filled with large dark clouds, and the dark clouds became denser and denser. In just a moment, the entire city was covered in darkness. Is it going to rain again? Didn't it rain just now? Didn't the weather forecast say it will be sunny from today to tomorrow? This weather forecast has never been reliable. The teleportees passing by Garen complained one after another. Black Disk region, Aurora region, your fate will be like this dark cloud in the sky. I don't know if anyone can break this dark cloud. It's like breaking fate. Garen murmured in a low voice, and his figure suddenly blurred, disappearing among the crowd in an instant. Countless black clouds covered the two major regions of the Black Disk domain and the Aurora domain at almost the same time, as well as the large radiation area in the middle. Countless black clouds blocked the sunlight in the sky. Temperatures dropped rapidly, and reports about the sudden formation of cold air were everywhere. The air that was supposed to be summer suddenly seemed to have returned to winter. The capital city is Black Pan City. Snow. It's snow. It's snowing. Mom, it's snowing. A child on the street jumped in surprise and ran towards home with the snowflakes caught in his gloves. Thousands of snowflakes fell from the sky. At the highest point of Black Pan City, a slender black sharp mecha squatted on the top of the highest spire of the Black Pan battleship. The Black Star Diophie in the cabin is no longer the handsome young man he was back then. He has gray hair on his temples, obvious wrinkles on his face, and an obviously old look that he shouldn't have. Laugh. He opened the ceiling cover of the cabin and sat in the mecha. He raised his head and looked at the falling snowflakes in the sky. Snow. He stretched out his hand in a daze, caught a little snowflake, and watched it slowly melt in his palm. At the moment when the snowflakes melted, he suddenly felt an extremely deep uneasiness deep in his consciousness. Dean. Suddenly, a light screen automatically appeared in front of him. A young woman above whispered. It's a bit strange. The Intelligence Bureau sent a message that abnormal cloud condensation appeared above us and the aurora field at the same time, and snowflakes like this began to fall in the entire area, including the radiation area. Inform the professors in the inner courtyard to organize an expert group to conduct research and make sure to find out the source of the snow. Diophie frowned. Yes. I don't know why. Diophie whispered, I have a bad feeling. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1084. Black Plate City. The once Hipan city has become increasingly chaotic and noisy. The bustling streets and alleys are littered with garbage and shredded newspapers. Some wild dogs and cats are still looking for food residues in the trash cans, making whining sounds from time to time. Unprecedented tramps and street children squatted and wandered deep in the alleys, competing with wild dogs for food. Dilapidated walled buildings, dark and dirty green streets, and occasional angry curses from passing vehicles. Garen walked slowly in the capital city of the Black Pan territory. Coming from the teleportation point, he didn't waste any time and went straight to the capital city. The original Seventh Wind God General Fira and the biochemist Ba Meng Ant must have left. Here it is. When he came here, Garen's only intention was to see the current Black Pan Academy and his former teachers. Walk slowly down the street. Hee. Boy, do you understand the rules of charging protection fees for outsiders passing through this territory? Several gangsters walked out of the alley and stopped in front of Garen. There was a playful and malicious smile on his face. The few passers-by around also quickly ran away, pretending not to notice at all. Garen was dressed in black and high-quality clothing. He looked no different from a rich young man wandering out. He had a gentle smile on his face, but it gave people a feeling of hypocrisy. He recalled who once told him that if you don't know how to be nice to the people around you, just keep smiling. This will always let people who really care about you know that you are doing well and don't have to worry. Protection money. Garen looked at the three gangsters in front of him. When did such a thing exist in Black Pan City? Seeing that something was wrong with the calm and composed Garen, a few gangsters seemed to feel something was wrong. Our bosses. Bang. With a muffled sound, the three gangsters flew out at the same time, hitting the wall on the side hard, and there was a cracking sound from the bones all over their bodies. He didn't even have time to scream, and his life or death was uncertain. Blood slowly flowed down the three of them, forming a small puddle on the ground. Garen didn't even raise his hand. This was just 1% of double punch pressure. Double punch pressure did not increase any power, but it had the ability to evenly disperse the punch power into the surrounding vacuum, instantly erupting in all directions without any difference. Power. Rather than just a little bit of power on the fist. Is it still a bit heavy? Garen frowned slightly. He originally wanted to stay alive, but he didn't expect that a punch that was twice as heavy as 100% would be too heavy. Bang. There was a slight sound of windows closing from the floor above. The surrounding area suddenly became emptier, and the entire street became more and more desolate. Several cars sped past as if fleeing for their lives. Garen put his hands in his pockets and looked at the city that had become more and more desolate because of the war. Even here, let alone other places, had become like this. Let's go see Xylan's residence first. Just as he thought, Garen walked some distance forward and stopped a taxi. After getting in the car, he reported the place name of Xylan's family. That's the original college villa area. The driver was a middle-aged man with a sinewy face, a shaved head, and a knife-shaped black leather sheath inserted upside down on the side. He glanced at Garen in the rear-view mirror. "Guest, are you a student of the academy?" He started the car and asked, "Looking at your temperament, you are not an ordinary person." "How is things going over there now?" Garen asked with a smile. "It's not bad. A lot of people have died in the wars in recent years. The college has urgently recruited a lot of new students, but it has become a bit messy," the driver replied carelessly. "Even ordinary gangsters don't dare to go there now. They are all conscious masters of strength. Ordinary people used to look for abuse from them. I also hung out there at the beginning, but I didn't expect that it would change in a blink of an eye." The driver started talking non-stop. He looked fierce, but he was actually a talker. He couldn't get to the point for a long time and started talking about his glorious years. Garen was not impatient, he just sat in his seat and looked out the window quietly. It is really regrettable that this once prosperous city has deteriorated to this extent in just a few years. With the driver chattering along the way, Garen finally arrived at the villa area near Black Pen Academy. I got out of the car and paid the bill with the black card I had prepared earlier. The black card was snatched from a rich man before. The order here has reached an extreme level. Now there are far fewer people to serve as soldiers. Let alone the police, are insufficient in number, and social order can only be maintained at a basic level. We walked into a small road with ease and soon saw Xylan's villa, one in the middle of rows of small white villas. It's empty here, not many people live there. It's afternoon now, the sky is covered with dark clouds, snowflakes are falling, and the light is dim, but it's still dead and deserted. Only in the distance can you see the lights on in a villa. Galen walked along the road in the community. Apart from broken street lights, there was no one at all along the way. The entire community has almost become a dead city. Walking to the door of Xylan Villa, thick dust was everywhere on the ground. The automatic defense villa warning system has also stopped monitoring and defending for a long time. The entire villa was dark and extremely quiet. He stretched out his hand and vibrated slightly, and the door suddenly opened with a creak, and Garen slowly walked in. The huge living room was pitch black, with only a pair of ancient metal knight armor figures reflecting a faint silvery light. The air was filled with thick bits of dust. Sure enough, there is no one left, Garen sighed, and with a thought, a cold wind suddenly swept through the entire villa, instantly blowing away all the dust inside and gathering it in a corner. The whole villa suddenly became much cleaner. After walking around the villa, Galen entered the basement again. He looked at the place where he and Xylan often sparred. It was also full of dust. Looking at the familiar furnishings, he had completely left. He thought that he had not seen Xylan for a long time. After getting in touch, she must have given up on this house completely. Many years ago, news came back from Xylan that Nanosawa's parents and sister had been completely arranged to settle in the most peaceful center, the freshwater galaxy. Xylan himself also followed his teacher to the freshwater galaxy. It took a long time to send back the news because the distance was too far. And now that the long-distance Stargate is completely closed, there is no way to know the situation there. I don't know how they are doing in the freshwater galaxy. Garen thought of Burin again, this brother or sister who is destined to become a king star. If history goes by, she may come back from the Four-Ring Star Alliance soon. And just when they come back, a huge energy tide will erupt here. This grand occasion is just a good opportunity for them to devour energy. Garen will come back at this time. For this reason, not just to come back for revenge. After wandering around Xylan's basement, the familiar environment was still there, but the people were no longer there, and I couldn't get out of this whirlpool. If there were no connections like Chayu and Burin, perhaps whitewashing and becoming a pilot would be a good way to avoid it. Unfortunately, there are not so many ifs in the world. Once I am noticed by the King of White, I will definitely be the first to do so. An object used for blackmail for a while. Garen left the villa, feeling a little unable to calm down after all. Walking along the path outside the villa area, I finally saw a few people, 3 men and 1 woman. The 3 men were dragging a girl towards the darkness, with wanton and lustful laughter, mixed with the girl's crying and frightened sounds. It was obvious that not a good thing. Sure enough, the trouble the driver mentioned was indeed extraordinary, because one of the 3 men actually had fluctuations in consciousness. Is the impact of the war really that great? Garen sighed. Even this city has decayed to this point in just a few years. His voice reached the ears of the 4 people far away, and they were calm, as if what happened in front of them was unimportant, as calm as watching a movie. Who, the one of the 3 men who was pulling the girl shouted loudly, glaring at Garen in warning. Mind your own business, or else. He didn't finish his sentence, but the threat behind it was obvious. Help! Help me! The girl seemed to see hope and cried loudly. As long as you save me, I can give you money, General. 100,000, 1 million. Please. Help me. Snapped. The man who spoke slapped her hard. You bitch, when I chased you, you didn't want to, humiliated me and looked down on me in every way. What about now? He grabbed the girl's hair. Aren't you noble? Aren't you a goddess? Why are you crying like this now? Don't you look down on me? Ah. Now you know how to find someone for help. The man laughed evilly. Let Nolan go. Suddenly a calm female voice with a hint of trembling sounded from the darkness not far away. A girl in black silk stockings wearing a white waist dress slowly walked out of the darkness. She was also holding a pair of high heels in her hand. She had a clean black single ponytail and a delicate and fair face, giving people a simple, elegant, and cold temperament. It's just that the girl looked extremely embarrassed at this time, her forehead was sweating slightly, her breathing was a little rapid, she obviously ran here, and the black pantyhose on her legs were damaged in some places. Tesna, the captured girl suddenly became surprised. Help me quickly. This guy is crazy. Tesna has nothing to do with you here, you'd better stop interfering, the man warned fiercely. What he responded to was a sharp elbow from the girl in the white dress. The lightning-like elbow hit the tall man behind the man with great precision, who stepped forward to block him. It was the man with consciousness who was obviously the man's bodyguard. Spin. Tesna's elbow attack was blocked, and her arm straightened suddenly, turning into a hand knife and slashing hard at the opponent's neck. Garen glanced sideways slightly. This girl's fighting style vaguely has the shadow of his own 12 flying dragon fist. When he taught it to Xylan, there was no restriction on her not being able to hand it over to others, but she didn't expect that it would be like this nearby. By chance, I met someone who knew a little bit about boxing skills.